Welcome back to the coal shed, and again we're not in the coal shed, we're in the garage again. I've got 3 jobs I'd like to get done today. I'm working on the GSX, and you're laughing at me working on the GSX. The rebuild of the front calipers. I've got to do an oil and filter change, although it is just an oil change really, but I like to change the filter when I change the oil. And I've still got to put a braided rear hose on. I did buy a full set of hoses, braided hoses for the bike, but I only ever put the front ones on. And that took me a lot longer than I thought it would, so I never actually got around to doing the rear one, so I've got to do that as well today. So it's 3 jobs, and we'll see how many that I get done today. So we'll start off, because I can do the calipers and the oil change at the same time. There you go, being a bit adventurous. So, but before we do that, we do need to get the bike warmed up. We'll warm the engine up, but you've got to leave it a couple of minutes before you let it all drain back down to the sump before you put it in the box. So we'll start by getting, look at that wheel, that is dirty. She does need a clean. It's been a week or 2 since she had a clean. She's due another one. She does work, she is out in all weathers, and she does live outside at the moment, so it does take its toll, bless it. But there we go. So yeah, we'll get these calipers off, those 2 bolts there and there, just 2, those 2, and then we can take the brake caliper off. It's usually a good idea to break that, well, not break it, but crack it, I think it's called. Crack that off as well at the same time. And I must forget to pump the brakes, so you get the pistons out, because we are taking the pistons out. They're off. Just taped using a bit of masking tape, some jars to the bottom of the hoses to catch the brake fluid, and I've taken the reservoir off, the reservoir cap or master cylinder thing, taking that off to make sure it all drains out. Right, brake calipers are off, brake pads look okay, still a bit of life left in those yet, so they're not too bad. They are calipers are a bit dirty, so good job we got them off. We can give them a clean at the same time. What we need to do is get the brake pads out, so we need the pliers, and in here, just in there, is a little split pin. So, we need to get that little split pin out, like that. Put that down to one side, and then we should be able to pull out this pin like that, and then the brake pads come out. Give those a bit of a, helps if you hold it to the camera, Stu. Give those a bit of a clean off. And the other one, you can't put these in the wrong way round, they're not the same side. Some brakes, I think Binky the van is the same. It's the same one, the same pad each side, where these are different, so you can't put them in correctly. Right, the next thing to do is get this. This is what clamps it onto the forks, and that should just, I believe, pull out. There we go. I'm going to get used to putting this. Nicely greased. Lovely job. Bit of Del Boy creeping in. Take that one off. Replacement over there. This can come off. I'm assuming it pinches through. See if we can get that through there. When I can hold it in line with the camera and work at this is where I need a pet. Del, is there any chance, if you watch this, mate, is there any chance you can lend Penny Camera Girl out to come and do some more, to come and video me? Free tea and cakes provided, mate, of course. Just push it in there. Out comes that one. They don't actually look in bad order. So, but we have got new ones. nicely greased. And then we've got to try and get these pistons out. Now, the old seals, yeah, that's pretty ganky in there. Obviously the cleaning that I was doing when these were on the bike with a toothbrush and the brake cleaner obviously wasn't adequate. That's got quite a build up on there, so we'll need to get those out. I pumped them out as much as I could with the brake lever, but like I said, I don't think these are the right seals in here, so I'm not 100% sure that that isn't half the problem, but we need to find a way to get those out. Right, a bit of a palaver with the brakes. I don't know what it is with me and brakes, but I can never seem to do them. I've done them on a few vehicles over the years, but it just seems to be just not my forte. Now, these hadn't pumped all the way out on either piston, and it was still actually quite a ways in. The problem is that I couldn't pump them out anymore as they were. I thought they pumped out enough. I was wrong, so yeah, I had to do the whole shebang again and put them back on the bike and try and get them pumped out a bit more. It took me ages to re-bleed them. I don't know why it takes me so long to bleed brakes. I think I must be doing something wrong. All the other videos that I've seen, it takes a lot. It doesn't take anywhere near as long. But we'll have more on that later, I think. Now I need to get these pistons out of here. They're not coming out by just pulling them out with your fingers. You can't put pliers straight on a piston because otherwise you'll damage it and then it will kill the seals. I did see a video, I think it was Dell actually, where he took the pistons out by cutting up an old inner tube, and I don't actually have an old inner tube, so what I've got is this stuff. This is the stuff that goes across your bike when you've got throwovers or you're bungeeing something to the back so that it doesn't damage your paintwork. So I'm hoping that this will work in getting these out. Oh, yeah. You see that? Look at the muck that's built up on that. Obviously, the cleaning that I was doing with the toothbrush and brake cleaner and that obviously was not that effective. So I'm going to have to step my game up on that. And then same again in there. Put that on there. Wiggle it out. A few drops of brake fluid again. Quite dirty. The back is clean, but that bit there is filthy. So we'll have to get those cleaned up. Now, I have seen a video on how to deal with this stuff around the top. Again, it's probably Dell, to be fair. Just get these clean. That to the end. Right. Now, on here, you can feel this is textured. And I'm positive that that needs to be smooth, and it isn't. And here, this one's slightly worse. And it isn't. This bit is, which is good, but this bit up here isn't, and it's starting to creep in down here, as you can see. So we need that to be smooth. So what we want to do is polish it, hence the AutoSong. Now I have seen this done, but that doesn't mean to say that I'm going to be able to do it. A bit of AutoSalt on a cloth, and then polish your piston by just rotating it round like that. Yeah, I'm not trying to flat spot anything. I'm not using a sandpaper or any wet and dry or anything like that. It's just polish because I want to polish the outside so it moves freely. See how it looks now. see much, but it's still got some marks up there. So we'll carry on with this for a while. My right hand's never had to do so much work in its life. Right, so here we are. Again, it's not perfect, there's still some there. I haven't managed to get it all off, but it's a lot smoother than it was. There's still a couple of marks here that I can't get out, so it's possible that I'm going to need another set of pistons. Now we move on to the caliper. And the first thing I want to do is I want to get these seals out. And these first ones, these are dust seals. They're to stop crap getting on the piston. They come out nice and easy. I'll put those to one side. And then these are the seals themselves. I'm always hesitant about getting a screwdriver into things like this, but I have seen it done on a few videos, as long as you're careful apparently. So don't go digging at it like a ham-fisted monkey like I do everything else. So just in there, and just prise the seal out. And then give it a visual. It's a little bit grubby in there. It will need a clean. And then just clean the dust and any bits and pieces in. Clean them out. Make sure they look nice and tidy. Give the grooves that you're putting your seals into an inspection as well, because they need to be smooth all the way around. They don't look too bad. Now you get two seals in each. This is the fluid seal and that is the dust seal, and they should just fairly easy to locate them in apparently. They should find the groove like so. And apparently they do have a chamfer on them, so you should be able to not feel it so much on the way in and feel a little lip on the way out, which I can on that one, although it is, looking at them, very difficult to spot. And this one pops in there. Right, this is red rubber grease. It's quite expensive. I have seen people use regular grease, but by the time I'd realised that, I'd bought this stuff, so I'll stick with this stuff. And what you do is you smear it on your piston. You don't need a lot, it's just a little bit slippy, so it slides in and out of the chamber, piston, bore, whatever. As you can tell, I'm well up on the technical terms. So pop that into there. Get it past the dust seal. And it sticks. Now that moves a lot freer. When I rebuilt these last time, that I couldn't actually push that. I was leaning on it with a spanner across there, and I was giving it serious amount of grief trying to get that to go in there, and that's just popped in there nice. So I'm hoping that the next one's going to be just as sweet. Again, much easier. I was leaning on that with a spanner last time. So they're in. Make sure they're pushed all the way down. Right, now we put it back together again. I've cleaned the area here, which this shaft goes into, and I've cleaned all the old grease off of that. That actually goes in there, like that, and this, whatever this is, sits in there, and acts as the shaft for that, so it moves in and out. So what we need to do is get that in there to start with, and then we need to fill it with grease. This rubber unit sits over here, and then that slides in around the right way, in and out, like that. But before we do that, we need to get some grease in. So here we have some grease. And I'm not sure the best way to do this either, so I'm just going to fill this hole, and we should be putting some in here as well. The idea is that this has to move smoothly. I'll give these a coat as well. Try and keep as much in as possible. Obviously, before you do, make sure you attach the whatever this bit of rubber is called. Make sure you attach it. Oh, it's going to be a pig to get on. No, there it is. There, that in there, and then they should slide, and they slide nice and freely. Nice. Wipe off the excess. Make sure the rubber seals are on. There we go, both those on, and they both move quite freely. Right, once that's all done, put this spring on. You'll have something similar in yours, I'm assuming. Put that spring back in. In this bike it can only go in one way, really. Put the pads back in. That one goes in like so. This one goes in over the top like so. Up to the edge. And then this pin, I'll just give that a bit of a clean. Goes in through the side like so. And then the R clip goes in, and there you go, one caliper rebuilt. I'm not going to video me doing the other side because it's blatantly obvious. It's exactly the same as that, just the other way around. And I'm running out of space on the camera. So I'll do the other one, and then we'll get on to putting them on the bike. Right, so the last caliper went together pretty much the same as the first caliper, and that went very well. Pistons popped in a lot easier. There was no need to force them or anything this time, so I'm treating that as a bonus. So to put the caliper back on, same as taking the caliper off. 2 bolts. Like so. And I happen to know, because I've got a manual, that the torque setting for these bolts is 39, is it Newton meters? I don't know what that NM stands for. assuming something like Newton meters or something similar, but whatever it is, it's 39 of them. And I do have a 3/8 drive that fits my torque wrench. One, it's two, we'll just double check it. Yep. Yep. And then we have the brake hose itself. Now it comes with two copper washers. I did have replacements, so I am replacing them. I believe these are called crush washers because they seal by crushing, I'm guessing. Right. And this is a 14 as well, and I happen to know that this one is a 23 Newton meter, or whatever it is. I'm sure you'll all laugh and tell me I've got that wrong, which is something there we go, 23. Job done on that side. Repeat on the other side. Hopefully on the final stages, the brake calipers are back on, bleeding kit in, reservoir empty, cloth over the tank to protect it, and then we'll just fill the brake reservoir up, not right to the top, just there for the moment. And then the idea behind bleeding brakes is I'm not an expert on this, and I can never ever get this to go right. Pull the handle in. Once the handle's in and it's kept depressed, undo that, just a quarter turn, third of a turn, half a turn, whatever. You'll hear it go into there. Tighten it back up again, release. Release. And then push it again, undo, or pump that a couple of times, undo, do up. And then keep going until you get the liquid comes up through there. So if I put you in this holder here, hopefully you can see a couple of pumps. There we go. A couple of pumps. You can hear that. I don't know if the microphone on the camera will pick it up. A couple of pumps. Yeah, a couple of pumps. At the moment all I'm getting is air, but that's pretty much all we're doing, is just expelling the air from the system. So we get rid of the air and it's just the fluid. Keeping an eye on the reservoir, make sure you don't run out. And now that's starting to come through quite nicely. A couple of little air bubbles in it, but we're getting those out. Yeah, that's starting to come through clear now with no air in it. Oh, big airlock. Big airlock. Maybe it's because I think it's done when it hasn't. Oh, more air. Problem every time. Those, I'm just getting nothing but fluid coming out of those now. Both sides of the calipers, I've done it, there's nothing but fluid coming out of there, no air bubbles. However, this, you won't see it, it's in the light back on, is a different story. Still getting lots of air bubbles. I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but every single video I think I've seen, they bleed that till it goes clear, no air bubbles. Bleed that till it goes clear, no air bubbles. Backwards and forwards a couple of times maybe. Da 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 da. Job done. And for me, it just does not seem to work. I just cannot. It's me and brakes, I'm telling you. It's just me and brakes. So this is the only way that I can get the rest of the air out, apparently, because it isn't coming out the bottom. But that's 2 hoses, one down to the left caliper, one down to the right. One down that caliper, that one goes to the caliper on that side, that one goes to the caliper on this side. So, and they don't join, they don't split. That's from there to the caliper, and from there to the caliper. It's just one length, so I don't get it. Perhaps there's a special trick to bleeding braided hoses, because this used to be one pipe that went down to a splitter, which is still there, this thing here, and then down to the sides. I don't know, maybe you have to do something wrong when it's different when you're doing braided hoses, but I'll carry on. Squeezing produces no more bubbles. Finally, no more bubbles. I don't know. But there's no more bubbles coming out. I can't get any more bubbles out of there. I've tried bleeding at the calipers again, and there's still no bubbles coming out of either side. That does feel better, but I think that's it. One way to find out, go out and test it. But before that, let's put this back together. Right, rubber seal. I've given that a bit of a clean. That fits in there like that. Make sure it's pressed down nice. And then you get the rubber seal and the cap. That does come out, it's just stayed in there, so I'm not forcing the issue with it. That, make sure the writing, if I've got this right, faces you. Sit that on. Then get your 2 naff little screws. And there. That one there. A screwdriver that fits the screw, because these are really easy to muller, which I have actually mullered them, but I don't have replacements, so do it in, and then hand tight apparently is enough. So we'll get this into focus a bit. Yeah, it's naff light in here. I don't have enough light put in yet, and the phone has difficulty. Hand tight, like that, and that will not leak, so they say. And there we go. Brakes, caliper rebuild, done and dusted. Well, I've got to test it first to see if it works, but there we go. So I'll get all this packed up. Yeah, I'll tidy that up. Made a mess today. Oh well. And then off home and test the brakes. Test ride home last night went really well. The brakes were nice and sharp, and there's no sound of any pads rubbing on the disc, and the wheel moves freely, so that's good. No play, like I said, there's not so much play in the brake lever anymore. They're right at the edge, so it was a problem, and now, touch wood, it's fixed. So caliper rebuild done. Managed to do the oil change at the same time, although that's not on the video because this video is long enough already without me adding that to it. It's just a standard oil change. When I do an oil and filter change, I'll record that, but the oil filter was on a bit too tight. I couldn't get it undone with my hand. I don't have the special tool, the cap, the thing that goes over the top of the oil filter, and I didn't really want to slack a screwdriver through it because sometimes they don't always come off. So when I get the oil filter cap, so I can take it off, I'll do an oil filter change. But caliper rebuild done. So just keeping the promise, man. Right, I'll see you on the next one. Cheerio.